It happened after the death of Saul, when David had returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had stayed 2 days in Ziklag. On the 3rd day, behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul, with his clothes torn, and earth on his head. David said to him, "Where do you come from?" He said to him, "I have escaped out of the camp of Israel." David said to him, "How did it go? Please tell me." He answered, "The people have fled from the battle, and many of the people also have fallen and are dead, and Saul and Jonathan his son are dead also." Then David took hold on his clothes and tore them, and likewise all the men who were with him. They mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and for Jonathan his son, and for the people of Yahweh, and for the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. "Your glory, Israel, is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen." Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives. In their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. You daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet delicately, who put ornaments of gold on your clothing. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan is slain on your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war perished. It happened after this, that David inquired of Yahweh, saying, "Shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah?" Yahweh said to him, "Go up." David said, "Where shall I go up?" He said, "To Hebron." So David went up there, and his men who were with him. The men of Judah came, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah. Now there was long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. David grew stronger and stronger, but the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Then Abner sent messengers to David, saying, "Make your covenant with me, and behold, my hand shall be with you, to bring all Israel around to you." David said, "Good, I will make a covenant with you." So Abner came to David to Hebron, and David made Abner and the men who were with him a feast. Abner said to David, "I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may reign over all that your soul desires." David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. When Joab heard this, he sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back. When Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into the midst of the gate, and there struck him, so that he died. Afterward, when David heard it, he said, "I and my kingdom are guiltless before Yahweh forever of the blood of Abner the son of Ner." David said to all the people who were with him, "Tear your clothes, and clothe yourselves with sackcloth, and mourn before Abner." King David followed the bier. They buried Abner in Hebron, and the king lifted up his voice, and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. All the people took note of it, and it pleased them, as whatever the king did pleased all the people. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David to Hebron, and spoke, saying, "Behold, we are your bone and your flesh. In times past, when Saul was king over us, it was you who led out and brought in Israel. Yahweh said to you, 'You shall be shepherd of my people Israel, and you shall be prince over Israel.'" So all the elders of Israel came to the king to Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them in Hebron before Yahweh, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. The king and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land. David took the stronghold of Zion. This is the city of David. David lived in the stronghold and called it the city of David. David built around from Millo and inward. David grew greater and greater, for Yahweh, the God of armies, was with him. When the Philistines heard that they had anointed David king over Israel, all the Philistines went up to seek David. David inquired of Yahweh, saying, "Shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand?" Yahweh said to David, "Go up, for I will certainly deliver the Philistines into your hand." David came to Baal Perazim, and David struck them there. He said, "Yahweh has broken my enemies before me, like the breach of waters." Therefore he called the name of that place Baal Perazim. David again gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. David arose and went with all the people who were with him to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name, even the name of Yahweh of armies, who sits above the cherubim. They set the ark of God on a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in the hill. David and all the house of Israel played before Yahweh with all kinds of instruments made of fir wood, and with harps, and with stringed instruments, and with tambourines, and with castanets, and with cymbals. When they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God, and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. Yahweh's anger was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of God. David was displeased because Yahweh had broken forth on Uzzah. David was afraid of Yahweh that day, and he said, "How shall the ark of Yahweh come to me?" So David would not move the ark of Yahweh to be with him in the city of David. But David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of Yahweh remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and Yahweh blessed Obed-Edom and all his house. It was told King David, saying, "Yahweh has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him, because of the ark of God." So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with joy. David danced before Yahweh with all his might, and David was clothed in a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of Yahweh with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. As the ark of Yahweh came into the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out at the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before Yahweh, and she despised him in her heart. They brought in the ark of Yahweh and set it in its place in the midst of the tent that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. When David had finished offering the burnt offering and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of Yahweh of armies. He gave to all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, both to men and women, to everyone a cake of bread, and a portion of meat, and a cake of raisins. So all the people departed, everyone to his house. It happened, when the king lived in his house, and Yahweh had given him rest from all his enemies all around, that the king said to Nathan the prophet, "See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of God dwells within curtains." Nathan said to the king, "Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yahweh is with you." It happened the same night that the word of Yahweh came to Nathan, saying, "Go and tell my servant David, thus says Yahweh, shall you build me a house for me to dwell in? I took you from the sheep pen, from following the sheep, that you should be prince over my people, over Israel. I have been with you wherever you went, and have cut off all your enemies from before you. I will make you a great name, like the name of the great ones who are in the earth. When your days are fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, who shall proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. Your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever." Then David the king went in and sat before Yahweh, and he said, "Who am I, Lord Yahweh, and what is my house, that you have brought me thus far? You know your servant, Lord Yahweh. For your word's sake, and according to your own heart, you have worked all this greatness, to make your servant know it. Therefore you are great, Yahweh God. For there is none like you, neither is there any God besides you. Now therefore, may it please you to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever before you. For you, Lord Yahweh, have spoken it. Let your name be magnified forever. After this it happened that David struck the Philistines and subdued them. David got him a name. He put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom put he garrisons, and all the Edomites became servants to David. Yahweh gave victory to David wherever he went. David reigned over all Israel, and David executed justice and righteousness to all his people. David said, "Is there yet any who is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?" There was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba, and they called him to David. The king said to him, "Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of God to him?" Ziba said to the king, "Jonathan has yet a son, who is lame of his feet." The king said to him, "Where is he?" Ziba said to the king, "Behold, he is in the house of Machir in Lo-debar." Then King David sent and brought him out of the house of Machir. Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David and fell on his face and showed respect. David said, "Mephibosheth." He answered, "Behold, your servant." David said to him, "Don't be afraid, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan, your father's sake, and will restore to you all the land of Saul your father. You shall eat bread at my table continually." He bowed himself and said, "What is your servant, that you should look on such a dead dog as I am?" So Mephibosheth ate at the king's table like one of the king's sons. It happened after this, that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his place. David said, "I will show kindness to Hanun the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness to me." So David sent by his servants to comfort him concerning his father. But the princes of the children of Ammon said to Hanun their lord, "Do you think that David honors your father, in that he has sent comforters to you? Hasn't. David sent his servants to you to search the city, and to spy it out, and to overthrow it." So Hanun took David's servants, and shaved off half their beards, and cut off their garments, and sent them away. When the children of Ammon saw that they had become odious to David, they hired the Syrians. When David heard of it, he gathered all Israel together, and they fought against them. The Syrians fled before Israel, and David killed of the Syrians the men of 700 chariots. When all the kings saw that they were defeated before Israel, they made peace with Israel, and served them. It happened at the return of the year, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David stayed at Jerusalem. It happened at evening that David arose from off his bed, and walked on the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman. The woman was very beautiful to look on. David sent and inquired after the woman. One said, "Isn't this Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" David committed a grievous sin against her and against Uriah, and arranged for Uriah to be killed in battle. The thing that David had done displeased Yahweh. Yahweh sent Nathan to David. He came to him and said to him, "There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had very many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and raised. It grew up together with him and with his children. It was like a daughter to him. A traveler came to the rich man, and he didn't want to take of his own flock to prepare for the traveler, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man who had come to him. David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, "As Yahweh lives, the man who has done this is worthy to die." He shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. Nathan said to David, "You are the man." This is what Yahweh, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul. Why have you despised the word of Yahweh to do that which is evil in his sight? David said to Nathan, I have sinned against Yahweh. Nathan said to David, Yahweh also has put away your sin. You will not die. However, because by this deed you have given great occasion to Yahweh's enemies to blaspheme, the child also who is born to you shall surely die. Nathan departed to his house. David therefore begged God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night on the earth. On the seventh day, the child died. David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in to her, and lay with her. She bore a son, and he called his name Solomon. Yahweh loved him, and he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he named him Jedediah for Yahweh's sake. It happened after this, that Absalom the son of David had a beautiful sister, whose name was Tamar, and Amnon the son of David loved her. Amnon was so troubled that he became sick because of his sister Tamar. Amnon did a wicked and shameful thing to his sister Tamar, and afterward hated her exceedingly, so that he sent her away. When King David heard of all these things, he was very angry. Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon, because he had wronged his sister Tamar. It happened after 2 full years that Absalom commanded his servants, saying, Mark now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I tell you, strike Amnon, then kill him. Don't be afraid. The servants of Absalom did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man rode on his mule, and fled. Absalom fled, and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. The soul of King David longed to go forth to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, since he was dead. Joab perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. So Joab arose and went to Geshur, and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. The king said, Let him return to his own house, but let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to Jerusalem, and he didn't see the king's face. Absalom sent for Joab, and at last the king called Absalom. And he came to the king, and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. It happened after this, that Absalom prepared for himself a chariot and horses, and 50 men to run before him. Absalom rose up early, and stood beside the way of the gate. When any man had a suit which should come to the king for judgment, then Absalom called to him and said, See, your matters are good and right, but there is no man deputized by the king to hear you. Oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man who has any suit or cause might come to me, and I would do him justice. In this manner Absalom did to all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. It happened at the end of 40 years that Absalom said to the king, Please let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed to Yahweh, in Hebron. So he went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom is king in Hebron. The conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. A messenger came to David, saying, The hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, Arise, and let us flee, for else none of us will escape from Absalom. Hurry to depart, lest he overtake us quickly, and bring down evil on us. All the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over, toward the way of the wilderness. David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives, and wept as he went up, and he had his head covered and went barefoot, and all the people who were with him covered every man his head. And they went up, weeping as they went up. One told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. David said, Yahweh, please turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness. When King David came to Bahurim, behold, a man of the family of the house of Saul came out, whose name was Shimei. He came out and cursed as he came. He cast stones at David and at all the servants of King David. Then Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, said to the king, Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Please let me go over and take off his head. The king said, Let him alone, and let him curse, for Yahweh has invited him. It may be that Yahweh will look on the wrong done to me, and that Yahweh will repay me good for the cursing of me today. So David and his men went by the way, and Shimei went along on the hillside opposite him, and cursed as he went. Then Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with him. Absalom said to Ahithophel, Give your counsel, what we shall do. Now the counsel of Ahithophel, which he gave in those days, was as if a man inquired at the oracle of God. But Absalom and all the men of Israel said, The counsel of Hushai the Archite is better than the counsel of Ahithophel. For Yahweh had ordained to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, to the intent that Yahweh might bring evil on Absalom. David numbered the people who were with him, and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. David sent forth the people, a third part under the hand of Joab, and a third part under the hand of Abishai, and a third part under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. The king said to the people, I will surely go forth with you myself also. But the people said, You shall not go forth. The king said to them, I will do what seems best to you. The king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom. All the people heard when the king commanded all the captains concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was in the forest of Ephraim. The people of Israel were struck there before the servants of David, and there was a great slaughter there that day of 20,000 men. Absalom happened to meet the servants of David. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the sky and earth, and the mule that was under him went on. A certain man saw it, and told Joab, and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak. Joab said, I'm not going to wait like this with you. He took 3 darts in his hand, and thrust them through the heart of Absalom, while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, Let me now run, and bear the king news, how that Yahweh has avenged him of his enemies. The king said, Is it well with the young man Absalom? Then the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, News for my lord the king, for Yahweh has avenged you this day of all those who rose up against you. The king said to the Cushite, Is it well with the young man Absalom? The Cushite answered, May the enemies of my lord, the king, and all who rise up against you to do you harm, be as that young man is. The king was much moved, and went up to the room over the gate, and wept. As he went, he said, My son Absalom, my son Absalom. I wish I had died for you, Absalom, my son, my son. It was told Joab, Behold, the king weeps and mourns for Absalom. The victory that day was turned into mourning to all the people, for the people heard it said that day, The king grieves for his son. Joab came into the house to the king, and said, You have shamed this day the faces of all your servants, who this day have saved your life. Now therefore arise, go out, and speak to comfort your servants, for if you don't go out, not a man will stay with you this night. So the king arose and sat in the gate. All the people came before the king. So the king returned and came to the Jordan. Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to bring the king over the Jordan. Shimei, the son of Gera, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. He said to the king, "Don't let my lord impute iniquity to me. Neither remember that which your servant did perversely the day that my lord the king went out of Jerusalem." David said, "You shall not die." The king swore to him. Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and he had neither cared for his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes, from the day the king departed until the day he came home in peace. The king said to him, "Why didn't you go with me, Mephibosheth?" He answered, "My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. My lord the king is as an angel of God. Do therefore what is good in your eyes." There happened to be there a base fellow, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite, and he blew the trumpet, and said, "We have no portion in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, Israel." So all the men of Israel went up from following David, and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah joined with their king, from the Jordan even to Jerusalem. David said to Abishai, "Now Sheba, the son of Bichri, will do us more harm than Absalom. Take your lord's servants and pursue after him, lest he get himself fortified cities and escape out of our sight." Joab pursued after Sheba, the son of Bichri. They came and besieged him in Abel of Beth-Makkah. Then a wise woman cried out of the city, "Here, here! Please tell Joab, come near here, that I may speak with you." She said, "I am of those who are peaceable and faithful in Israel. Why will you swallow up the inheritance of Yahweh?" Joab answered, far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. Just deliver the man who lifted up his hand against the king, even Sheba, the son of Bichri, and I will depart from the city." The woman said to Joab, "Behold, his head shall be thrown to you over the wall." Then the woman went to all the people in her wisdom. They cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and threw it out to Joab. He blew the trumpet, and they were dispersed from the city, every man to his tent. Joab returned to Jerusalem to the king. There was a famine in the days of David 3 years, year after year, and David sought the face of Yahweh. Yahweh said, "It is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he put to death the Gibeonites." The Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And Saul had sought to kill them in his zeal for the children of Israel and Judah. The king made amends with the Gibeonites. After that, God was entreated for the land. The Philistines had war again with Israel, and David went down, and his servants with him, and fought against the Philistines. David grew faint, and the men of David swore to him, saying, "You shall go no more out with us to battle, that you don't quench the lamp of Israel." It happened after this, that there was again war with the Philistines. There the mighty men of David struck down the giants of the Philistines. David spoke to Yahweh the words of this song in the day that Yahweh delivered him out of the hand of all his enemies, and out of the hand of Saul. And he said, "Yahweh is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, even mine God, my rock. In him I will take refuge, my shield, and the horn of my salvation, my high tower and my refuge. My Savior, you save me from violence. I will call on Yahweh, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. In my distress I called on Yahweh. Yes, I called to my God. He heard my voice out of his temple. My cry came into his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of heaven quaked and were shaken because he was angry. He sent from on high, and he took me. He drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too mighty for me. Yahweh rewarded me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands has he recompensed me. For I have kept the ways of Yahweh, and have not wickedly departed from my God. With the merciful you will show yourself merciful. With the perfect man you will show yourself perfect. For you are my lamp, Yahweh. Yahweh will light up my darkness. For by you I run against a troop. By my God I leap over a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of Yahweh is tested. He is a shield to all those who take refuge in him. For who is God besides Yahweh? Who is a rock besides our God? Yahweh lives. Blessed be my rock. Exalted be God, the rock of my salvation, even the God who executes vengeance for me. Therefore I will give thanks to you, Yahweh, among the nations, and will sing praises to your name. Now these are the last words of David. David the son of Jesse says, the man who was raised on high says, the anointed of the God of Jacob, the sweet psalmist of Israel. The Spirit of Yahweh spoke by me. His word was on my tongue. The God of Israel said, the rock of Israel spoke to me. One who rules over men righteously, who rules in the fear of God. He shall be as the light of the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, when the tender grass springs out of the earth, through clear shining after rain. Isn't my house so with God? Yet he has made with me an everlasting covenant, ordered in all things, and sure. These are the names of the mighty men whom David had: Josheb-Basshebeth, a Tachmonite, chief of the captains. The 3 mighty men broke through the army of the Philistines and drew water out of the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. But he would not drink of it, but poured it out to Yahweh. He said, be it far from me, Yahweh, that I should do this. Isn't this the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives? Therefore he would not drink it. These things the 3 mighty men did. Again the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them, saying, go, number Israel and Judah. So Joab gave up the sum of the numbering of the people to the king. And there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men who drew the sword, and the men of Judah were 500,000 men. David's heart struck him after he had numbered the people. David said to Yahweh, I have sinned greatly in that which I have done. But now, Yahweh, put away, I beg you, the iniquity of your servant, for I have done very foolishly. When David rose up in the morning, the word of Yahweh came to the prophet Gad, David's seer, saying, go and speak to David. Thus says Yahweh, I offer you 3 things. Choose one of them, that I may do it to you. So Gad came to David and told him. So Yahweh sent a pestilence on Israel from the morning even to the appointed time. And there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men. When the angel stretched out his hand toward Jerusalem to destroy it, Yahweh relented of the disaster, and said to the angel who destroyed the people, it is enough. Now stay your hand. Gad came that day to David and said to him, go up, build an altar to Yahweh on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. David said to Araunah, I will most certainly buy it from you for a price. I will not offer burnt offerings to Yahweh my God, which cost me nothing. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. David built there an altar to Yahweh, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So Yahweh was entreated for the land, and the plague was removed from Israel.